despite the quality of what they do, despite how admirable they are in terms of human beings and their military intellect, that's what they do for a living. Generals always want more troops. What if General Petraeus is wrong?
Was Admiral Mullen wrong too?
Admiral Mullen was kind of wrong at the beginning. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I think
how do you define victory in Afghanistan?
You define victory as this. We want to make sure we remember why we went there. We went there because there were individuals and groups who conspired to and operationalized a plan to kill about 3,000 of our fellow citizens. And they would have killed not 3,000, but 30,000 or 300,000 or 3 million or 30 million if they had the capacity to do it. And as soon as they do, they'll try. And so this is not a time for the United States, including the Republicans, by the way, to be asleep at the switch.
But they're not there anymore, Governor.
Joe, you know this is, as you said earlier, you got 100 or whatever the estimate is of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan.
50. You had more staff members in Minnesota as governor than there are members of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan.
But the concern is not limited to al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. You know there's kinetic synergy. That border that the Brits drew between Afghanistan and Pakistan is arbitrary. The Haqqani network doesn't recognize it. The other tribes don't recognize it. There's a
So you're another person that comes here saying we need to be in Afghanistan because of Pakistan.
We need to be in Afghanistan because of the threats that elements in Pakistan pose to Afghanistan and our security interests more broadly.
Do we need 100,000 troops in Afghanistan because we're concerned about Pakistan?
No, but what I am saying is when you have the most respected, most knowledgeable, most successful, most impactful leader on these issues unquestionably, say not quite yet, a little more, a little longer so we can get to this intermediate goal, I think you should have given him the benefit of the doubt and not made a political
General
decision.
Petraeus.
Absolutely.
Governor, what lessons do you take away from 10 years of war in America? If this should happen again, what happened to us on 9/11 came from a place like, say, Yemen, would you again do what we did in Afghanistan, which is to send in a large number of troops, or would you go in with drone strikes? How would you approach it, taking everything we've learned over the last decade? What would you do differently?
Willie, each one of these countries in the Middle East is different. They have different histories, cultures, traditions, relationships with the United States, militarily, economically, and the like. You can't put a one-size-fits-all imprint on all of the Middle East. So it would depend on the country and the circumstance. But in general, in the wake of the Arab Spring, now is not the time for this president or the Republican Party to shrink from this moment of opportunity for freedom. That doesn't mean we invade every country, but look what Reagan did in Angola. Look what Reagan did in Poland. Look what Reagan did in Afghanistan Part 1. Short of invading, there are lots of options to support, to fund, to supply elements within those countries that yearn for freedom, want to move towards democracy and our values, and we should help them.
But did you think Afghanistan taught us that sending 100,000 troops into a country like that does not solve the problem that created the terrorist attack?
I mean, don't confuse what happened subsequent to the invasion with the rationale for the invasion. The invasion in Afghanistan was 100% justified. People, no question about it.
We all agree with that, right?
Yeah, so let's start there. And then
10 years later.
Nobody who reads or understands Afghan history, and I've been there 3 times and have been all over the country, including by air and on the ground, nobody who looks at Afghanistan history is going to conclude that it's likely any time in our lifetime or beyond that they're going to have a Western-style democracy run out of Kabul, particularly by a flawed leader like Karzai. That's not our mission there. We're not going to spend a decade nation building there, but what we do need to do is make sure we have enough capacity there or in the region so if somebody wants to operationalize another plan to kill tens of thousands or more of our people, and they'll try, then we better have the ability to identify it and put it down promptly. Because if we're sitting here a year from now and somebody has a weapon and they put it into New York or Chicago or Miami, you're going to say, gosh, why didn't we do something about it?
I guess
and this stuff happens quickly.
I guess my question is, there are people who want to do that in Yemen right now. There are people in Somalia who want to do that to the United States. Do we have enough troops surrounding those countries to react?
Well, let's take Yemen just as an example. We have a lot of alignment of interest with some other players in the region. We don't have to do it all. Saudi Arabia is very interested in what happens in Yemen. The general in Yemen, who is the main rebel who left the military, is saying, even if the rebels take over, we can work with you. So don't presuppose that Yemen necessarily involves a U.S. military intervention.
All of this comes at a tremendous cost in lives, first of all, American treasure, secondly. To pay for this, Do you think we have, at some point, have to widen the revenue stream here in this country, tax increase, to pay for this?
You know, the war supplemental in both Iraq and Afghanistan at its recent peak is about $150 billion a year. And if the glide path down on funding Iraq stays on its current course, it's going to be approaching zero or nominal by the end of this year unless we stay a little bit longer. So that's going to help a great deal. And we can phase down in Afghanistan.
That's what Lyndon Johnson said in 1967, guns and butter.
I'm not here to say don't ever draw down in Afghanistan. I'm just saying we have one increment of progress in the intermediate term that the general had identified, and we should have accomplished it before putting the political calendar in front of it.
Let's move to the campaign. Politics is a funny thing, isn't it?
I think so, Joe.
It is. How's your family handling the presidential campaign? I mean, it's. I remember something Cokie Roberts once said, you know, you get governors, senators, all these people have been in politics, they think they've seen it all, and then they run for president, and it's just like nothing anybody could be prepared for.
I'm fortunate. My wife, Mary, I wish you could meet her sometime. We've been married 23 years. We met at the University of Minnesota. She believes in the cause, which is doing what we can to try to get this country back to a better place and using what skills and gifts we've been given to try to do that.
Right.
So she's all in, but we have 2 teenage daughters. They both like boys, and one of them drives.
How old are they?
Oh, my God.
18 and 14.
Oh,
okay,
God.
So she needs supervision.
Seriously, I have 2 teen daughters, and I just want to keel over. I don't know how you're doing it.
Have you heard the Martina McBride song on teenage daughters?
What's that?
It's a country western song dedicated to this exact concern. So
Okay,
you'll have to check
I will look it up.
So let me ask you: does it seem strange to you that a congresswoman that has a history of saying some very intemperate things has suddenly become, from your home state, has suddenly become sort of the flavor of the moment in the political world? Michelle Bachmann this week. You know, everybody's talking about her. She's on the front of the New York Times. She zoomed ahead of you. And as you said, you have done things, not just talked about it.
It's a long road, and these early polls don't usually predict the outcome. If they did, Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton would be president. You know, they were 10, 20, I don't know, 30 points
But come on, it's hard to take. You ran a state for 8 years, and this woman goes on.
Yeah, I understand how this works, but I also
calls the president a thug or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a long road,
drives you
Joe.
crazy.
It's a long road. And
you
so,
can admit it. You're just a morning Joe. It drives you nuts.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
You wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you go, Michelle Bachmann? Are you kidding me? Here's a woman whose calls I screened when I was governor? Come on, you do that. You know you do that.
There's
Joe,
just a little bit?
A little?
No.
Okay, but your wife does.
That's cute.
Can I give you one piece of insight from Jay Leno that explains this whole thing?
Okay.
Jay Leno was asked one time, what is the secret to your success? And he said, essentially, over time, you just got to keep it on the road.
Keep it on the road.
Okay, so he doesn't have a Michelle Bachmann doll.
Journey.
And he doesn't
Final
poke
question.
it.
What's your hometown?
Yeah.
South St. Paul, Minnesota.
Great place.
Are there any serial killers
that you identify with, that you want to bring, kind of bring into the concept of your campaign?
Well, it was when I was growing up there, it was a big meatpacking town.
Oh.
There was a lot of killers, but it was they were killing cows and pigs and sheep.
Right.
That's okay.
Processing a lot of bologna. Brunchwager. Mike, you had Brunchwager, I bet, didn't you?
Oscar Mayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Poor man's pate.
Yeah.
With Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. Well, good luck today.
Little PBR, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Good luck today.
That was fun.
Good
Thank you
luck
very
at the
much,
CFR.
Governor.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck on the campaign trail. But I got to tell you, seriously, good luck with the 2 teenage daughters.
Yes.
That's much more
Let me
difficult
know
than
how it
anything you'll
goes.
Get
share
that
this year.
Martina McBride song.
I thought you said, get that martini, and I was already there.
Oh, she's there.
That's part of the song.